React to Prime Kai versus Pisco.
Like accomplishments.
I'm talking about in terms of the genocide. Sorry, I'm talking about in terms of the genocide.
Nope, I'm good.
Avia and Khan, where did you come from today? From Israel. Okay, well, listen. I'm going to say this. I'm very grateful that you're here as humans, and I am treating you as equal humans on Earth, regardless of where you come from or don't come from. Thank you for being here. We're grateful, and thank you for being loving and kind. Okay, and riding aside. And although it's controversial, maybe, I also want to welcome people in the audience from Palestine, because we have a belief that we're all equally human. And
Okay. Give me the, I want the newly released Tulsi Gabbard leaks, or material, I guess. New evidence of Obama administration. Conspiracy to subvert President Trump's 2016 victory and presidency. The files and a memo in today's release are available on dni.gov. Oh, fuck, this is way bigger than I thought it was. 114 pages. Holy shit, I actually watched Gone Girl from start to finish today. I haven't seen like the whole thing, just like clips from DGG. That shit cray. Very cray. Let's see. Approved for release by the DNI on July 17th, 2025. Subject, NIC product on cyber threats to U.S. electoral infrastructure. What is NIC? Something intelligence community? Let's see, from James R. Clapper, DNI. Yes, at the White House session today, chaired by Dennis, I brought up that I had asked my team to produce an NIE on cyber threats to our electoral infrastructure. This generated quite a bit of discussion. In the end, all agreed that some sort of IC product would be very useful. Exactly what form it would take was left for us to decide. I think where we're headed now is an ICA-like product that could be classified and then produce an unclassed product for wider dissemination at the state, local, tribal levels, which would then provide to DHS/FBI for them to disseminate. Okay, we are in acronym fucking heaven right now. What do we have? NIE, cybersecurity. What does this mean? Network integration evaluation. National intelligence estimate. What do you call it? Is it an appendix where you have like definitions and shit? IC's intelligence community, WH's White House, ICA, intelligence, the intelligence community assessment. Okay. DHS is Department of Homeland Security. FBI is the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Okay. Jim, what is the subject? I should... What exactly is the subject for tomorrow? Question mark. Hey Big D, longtime fan, mostly on YouTube. Mostly a YouTube frog who catches your VOD. Just wanted to say today that I'm grateful for what you do. I almost died today and I'm still freaked out. And it's a comfort to come and hang. Oh, did you almost kill yourself after that interview? I'm just kidding. Well, be careful, buddy. The Obama Russiagate stuff. I need an exact / specific claim because Rob is a debate lord and will argue the syntax to death if he can't win on subject matter. Is there a precise claim that he stated? Question mark. About some tunes? I have music playing quietly. What the fuck? Specifically, is Obama guilty and is the Trump admin lying about the details? Okay, gotcha. All right. Is Obama guilty of Russian conspiracy hoax? Is the Trump admin lying about the Russian conspiracy hoax? Okay. These are going to be the two prongs. Jim just wanted to make sure in all this back and forth that what we'll do in the interest of time is an ICA, not an NIE. I assume that is okay with you, but wanted to make sure. Cheers. Secretary Johnson committed DHS to supporting state and local agencies to secure computer-enabled election infrastructure. The NCCIC reached out to state and local officials responsible for election infrastructure to offer our assistance in identifying and remediating vulnerabilities. My team is analyzing cyber threats to the upcoming election and, in response to a request from the Special Assistant to the President for Cybersecurity, Michael Daniel briefed the NSC alongside CIA last week. The NSC, the National Security Cyber? The National Security Council, fuck. The brief included a DHS expert on vulnerabilities of the system and overall risk due to cyber incident. We are working with CIA on a PDB submission on the threat. PDB, what does that mean? President's Daily Brief. The thrust of the analysis is that there is no indication of a Russian threat to directly manipulate the actual vote count through cyber means. However, as seen in recent media reporting, any cyber activity directed against the election infrastructure is likely to have an effect on public confidence, even if the cyber operation is unsuccessful or not intended to impact the election. For example, theft of PII, personally identifiable information, from a voter registration database. POTUS agreed yesterday that our electoral apparatus, my term, should be considered as critical infrastructure. I've directed my folks to generate an NIE, a National Intelligence Estimate, on attendant cyber threats to this key infrastructure and to get it done sooner than later. Obviously, we will need to work with your team to produce this. This is in August of 2016. So in August 2016, this was an effort by our intelligence community, by the IC, I should say, to ensure cyber security threats are identified and quashed to ensure election integrity and public faith in our election infrastructure. I understand that DNI Clapper indicated a national intelligence estimate on the cyber threats to election issues, but from our discussion this morning, an ICA should be okay. Our goal is to get an ICA in place by next week, given we already worked with the CIA and the DHS on a variety of cyber threats to election issues. Blank is our POC, point of contact, I think, and lead drafter with contributions from DHS, FBI, and CIA. What is the ICA? Okay, what is an ICA versus an NIE? I feel like one is probably more in-depth than the other. This was a mistake. Intelligence. Stop. Okay, NIEs are U.S. federal government documents that are the authoritative assessment of the DNI on intelligence related to a particular national security issue. NIEs are produced by the National Intelligence Council, express the coordinated judgment of the USIC. They're classified documents prepared for policymakers. Okay. So an NIE is a classified document that is the authoritative assessment of the DNI on intelligence related to a particular national security issue. Okay, versus a intelligence community assessment. Fuck. Whoops. You watched Dexter Resurrection. Fuck no. Okay. I'm going to guess an intelligence community assessment maybe isn't classified. The way they're talking about it. It just seems to be a quicker thing. Okay. Okay, DNI, DHS, okay, thank you. By the way, I'd like to schedule another visit with you and your team. Maybe do another town hall. So you want to say I love you and to keep on keeping on going through a nasty divorce, finding my way out of alcoholism, you mean a lot. Well, thanks. Good luck, Ithaca. Director Clapper, I'm sending this a bit early as I am off to McAllen, Texas for a border review. Here are the issues that I wanted updated. Or wanted to update. The ICITE update. Oh my fucking god. Intelligence community. Information technology. Oh, IT. Okay. Intelligence community. Information technology enterprise. Including representatives from ODNI. That's the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Director of National, right? Yes. Reviewed and approved our proposal for a two-phased approach to move forward on ICIT integration. Phase 1, replicate in ICITE existing data sharing agreements using a community of interest model. Phase 2, move to a policy-based access model. We're reviewing our requirements of the ICIT. Wayward skies. Let's see, fuck all this shit. Special interest alien joint action group. As previously noted, I led a DHS effort to expand initiatives in order to dismantle human smuggling networks. The Secretary received the final brief today and approved the plan of action. We are examining our current human collection against this problem and so forth. Bulk screening of social media update. The department's moved towards centralized bulk screening capability for social media is a novel fluid challenge. Since December, we've conducted a number of pilots to test capabilities and developed a process for social media screening. Our intention was to have an initial capability in place by August 1st, 2016. However, congressional feedback pressed to rethink our funding strategy. We received congressional support to continue operational testing on live data. With the intention of achieving initial operation or operating capacity in fiscal year 2017. Our immediate operational imperatives are Syrian refugees, followed by electronic system for travel authorization, the visa waiver applicants. We're still developing a longer-term funding strategy. Election, cybersecurity support. Secretary Johnson committed DHS to supporting state and local agencies to secure computer-enabled election infrastructure. The NCCIC, the National... Fuck me. Intelligence Community. What is the National Cybersecurity and Communications Integration Center? Okay. Reached out to state and local officials responsible for election infrastructure to offer our assistance in identifying and remediating vulnerabilities. My team is analyzing cyber threats to the upcoming election, and in response to a request from the Special Assistant to the President for Cybersecurity, Michael Daniel, briefed the NSC alongside CIA last week. The brief included a DHS expert on vulnerabilities of the system and overall risk due to cyber incident. We're working with CIA on a PDB submission to the threat. The thrust of the analysis is that there is no indication of a Russian threat to directly manipulate the actual vote count through cyber means. However, as seen in recent media reporting, any cyber... Oh, okay, we saw this. Internship program update. Don't care about this. Don't care about this. ISR plan. State and local engagement. Okay. Below our inputs from the FBI. Sorry for the delay. Due to the long weekend, we have several folks out. With intent section we refer for the first sentence regarding Russia's intent to be softened. The way it currently reads, it would indicate that we have definitive information that Russia does intend to disrupt our elections, and we are uncomfortable making that assessment at this point. We would suggest editing this sentence to read as the following, changes highlighted. We judge Russia to be the only nation state with the current means and possible motivation to use cyber attack to disrupt the 2016 election or deny political legitimacy to U.S. presidential candidates. We would also suggest editing the title of that section to instead read something along the lines of evaluation of likely adversaries so that it doesn't mislead the reader to believe that the IC currently has information indicating Russia has a known intent to influence the election. Okay, actually, before I dive into this, we should do, the current chat is not embedded. Oh, fuck, I'm sorry. Okay, we should actually get this first. What is the actual claim being made? Is Obama guilty of a Russian conspiracy hoax? So, Tulsi, Russia, Obama conspiracy. What is the actual claim made by Tulsi Gabbard? Okay, it's basically this page, huh? New evidence of Obama administration conspiracy to subvert President Trump's 2016 victory and presidency. On Friday, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, revealed overwhelming evidence that demonstrates how, after President Trump won the 2016 election against Hillary Clinton, President Obama and his national security cabinet members manufactured and politicized intelligence to lay the groundwork for what was essentially a years-long coup against President Trump. In the months leading up to the November 16 election, the intelligence community consistently assessed that Russia is probably not trying ... to influence the election by cyber means. Okay. Claims and evaluations. All claims come from the DNI website. On December 7th, 2016, after the election, talking points were prepared for DNI James Clapper stating, foreign adversaries did not use cyber attacks on election infrastructure to alter the U.S. presidential election outcome. On December 9th, 2016, President Obama's White House gathered top National Security Council principals for a meeting that included Clapper, Brennan, Rice, Kerry, Lynch, McCabe, and others to discuss Russia. Okay. After the meeting, DNI Clapper's executive assistant sent an email to IC leaders tasking them with creating a new IC assessment per the president's request that details the tools Moscow used and actions it took to influence the 2016 election. It went on to say, ODNI will lead this effort with participation from CIA, FBI, NSA, and DHS. Obama officials leaked false statements to media outlets, including the Washington Post, claiming Russia has attempted through cyber means to interfere in, if not actively influence, the outcome of an election. On January 6th, 2017, a new intelligence community assessment was released that directly contradicted the IC assessments that were made throughout the previous 6 months. This doesn't even seem to be valid, let alone sound. Like, this isn't even... hopefully it's not just this word game the whole time, but maybe it is. After months of investigation into this matter, the facts revealed this new assessment was based on information that was known by those involved to be manufactured, i.e. the Steele dossier, or deemed as not credible. Manafort delivering internal campaign information to a confirmed Russian... yeah, I might get to that. We'll see if that comes up on this. This was politicized intelligence that was used as the basis for countless smears, seeking to delegitimize President Trump's victory, the years-long Mueller investigation, 2 congressional impeachments, high-level officials being investigated, arrested, and thrown in jail, heightened U.S.-Russia tensions, and more. The issue I'm raising is not a partisan issue. It is one that concerns every American. The issue we released today clearly shows there was a treasonous conspiracy in 2016 committed by officials at the highest level of our government. Their goal is to subvert the will of the American people and enact what was essentially a years-long coup with the objective of trying to usurp the president from fulfilling the mandate bestowed upon him by the American people through their government emails. Okay. Okay. I believe it's worth noting that in an extremely close race, it's certainly possible that a very targeted cyber attack aimed at manipulating votes could lead to a change in the legitimate results and affect the outcome of the election. As an example, the votes in a swing county in a swing state could potentially be slightly altered, thus resulting in the Electoral College votes of a particular state to go toward one particular individual, thus doing the entire election in their favor. Although it's unlikely, it certainly remains a possibility, and one that can't be discounted due to the high impact even with the disjointed nature of U.S. election technology. We'll see, Tyler. The NIC does not want to write on U.S. vulnerability, and frankly, with this subject, it would take years to get decent data. And though I'd love to write more on the broader influence issue, this product is not the place for that. The NIC is the... Is that just the National Intelligence Community? No. What is NI... Wait. Oh, the National Intelligence Council. Jesus. We don't have a date on this. We're trying to get this at the strategic level. That said, we are likely missing important reporting or ideas. Please add what you think this needs, but not everything it could contain. Lower classification data that makes the overall point is preferred to exquisite examples that drive HCS or gamma marks, unless it changes the bottom line, in which case I've added. CTIIC, need your folks to help, specifically with some sourcing and an update of your table, and generally regarding other things we may have left out regarding actors or activities. EHS, I would value your thoughts in particular on the language for the page 2 take on overall proliferation of threats to U.S. cybersecurity. Okay. September. Okay. What the fuck is the point of declassifying like this? To make a really big Amogus? True. I took the intent of this email to get the basic starting point regarding Russia. We agree with. Russia is probably not and will not trying to influence the election by using cyber means to manipulate computer-enabled election infrastructure. Yes, if we're going further, while Russia has some capability to conduct cyber manipulation of election infrastructure, we judge that efforts by them or others to change the outcome of an election through cyber means would be detected. That's a key element of our cyber-focused PDB. We assess that foreign adversaries, notably Russia, are more likely to focus their cyber operations on undermining credibility/public confidence. That assessment feeds directly into the influence operations, some cyber-enabled, that we've seen related to current and historic election cycles. We concur with the CIA's change related to that. What is the date on this email? September 9th. This claim is a lie. I hope that Tulsi gets something in a video game. The Chief NCCIC Intelligence Support Branch. Do I have a name? Do we know who this person would have been? Fuck, I should do a cutout for this. How do you do the... Does anybody know how to do the call-out things? Fuck. Are they called call-outs? What are they called? Obsidian... Oh, there's no way to do the... I would have to break my outline to do this, right? To include a callout. Cringe. I defer to Blank at the first sentence, but I sort of understood the emphasis to be on Russia probably not having the capability to influence the election, but again, I defer to him. I suggest a tweak to the second sentence. Okay, so this guy from Blank DNI, from the CIA disagrees with that assessment here. Green lava. Wait, what? What is Trump truthing? Jesus, I don't know what the fuck this is. Stop. Each of you have PDB for other IC pieces related to Russia and the US elections. At first read, the pieces seem to say different things. I'm reaching out to see if an agreement can be reached on language just as a starting point. Would it be accurate to say the below? If not, what would be accurate? Russia is probably not trying to going... What is this sentence? Russia probably is not trying to be able to influence the election by using cyber means to manipulate computer-enabled election infrastructure. Russia probably is using cyber means primarily to influence the election by stealing campaign party data and leaking select items, and it is also using public propaganda. This fits a historical pattern of Russia using less sophisticated propaganda and information operations to influence US elections. Was this approved? Let's see, from the DNI. Is this, okay, the ICAs, were these the public ones or no? Were these the classified ones? Maybe they're all classified. This intelligence community assessment was prepared for the National Intelligence Council under the auspices of the National Intelligence Officer for Cyber Issues. It was drafted by the NIC, DHS, and CIA with contribution from the CTIIC and coordinated with DHS, FBI, CIA, DIA, NGA, NSA, and state/INR. Jesus. Key insights. Okay. September 12th, 2016 Intelligence Community Assessment. We judge that foreign adversaries do not have and will probably not obtain the capabilities to successfully execute widespread and undetected cyber attacks on the diverse set of information technologies and infrastructures used to support the 2016 U.S. presidential election. We have only moderate confidence in our overall threat assessment. Okay. The most likely cyber threat to the election is from low-level detectable cyber intrusions and attacks that cause localized disruptions but do not threaten the overall functionality of the election services or infrastructures. Nonetheless, even the perception that such low-level intrusions and attacks have occurred risks undermining public confidence in the legitimacy of the electoral process. We further assess that foreign adversaries are more likely to focus election-related cyber operations on undermining the credibility of the electoral process than on clandestinely manipulating the vote outcome through cyber means. Which is that Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea can execute a variety of disruptive cyber attacks, including data, corruption, distributed denial of service, and even data. Depending on the adversary's level of access and the targeted systems, some nations could probably corrupt or deny many online election services modified. Adversaries might also target the most contested, although unlikely, in a perfect storm, a cyber adversary might be able to target a small number of critical counties in highly contested states with significant numbers of electoral college votes, potentially altering the apparent outcome of and almost certainly undermining public confidence. We judge Russia has conducted cyber and intelligence operations that suggest it has potential interest in disrupting the U.S. presidential election. The Kremlin's cyber penetration of a U.S. political party servers and the timing of the probable subsequent leak of stolen data suggest that Russia is motivated to exploit the period surrounding the U.S. presidential election, either to try to shape the U.S. political environment or to advance other Russian interests. For example, Putin might simply wish to make the U.S. electoral process appear illegitimate or to undermine the legitimacy of the president-elect in order to strengthen Moscow's hand. We judge that although it has the means to do so, China is unlikely to publicly release any materials that it might have collected from campaigns or candidates, and that it will probably not attempt to influence the outcome of the presidential election via cyber means. We make this judgment with low confidence. Let's see, this is page 20. Okay. It will not be baited. Okay. Information available as of September 8th, 2016 was used in the preparation of this product. This IC addresses the period between September 8th, 2016 and November 9th, 2016. Judgments might be revised during this time frame. The IC this is the threat from and likely objectives of cyber attacks committed by foreign state and non-state actors against the 2016 U.S. presidential election. This paper does not provide a comprehensive overview of all cyber-enabled efforts to influence U.S. foreign voter perceptions. By influence, we mean an attempt to shift perceptions of a target group. Additional IC Interesting. This should include these things. Assumptions. The cybersecurity of IT systems used in the 2016 will be at best comparable to the security of federal government IT systems. No responsible entity will make any significant change that affects the connectivity of U.S. Not significantly change. Okay. Estimate language. Estimates of likelihood convey judgments of the probability of developments or events. Confidence levels provide assessments on the quality and quantity of source information. NXT estimative language elaborates on these terms. We have moderate confidence in all judgments except as otherwise noted. We have no indication that foreign adversaries that are planning to manipulate or sabotage computer-enabled U.S. election infrastructure. We assess that foreign adversaries, most notably Russia, probably expect cyber operations against U.S. election infrastructure to be more effective in undermining legitimacy of the process and the winning candidate and in covertly manipulating the vote outcome. Although many adversaries are capable of detectable disruptive cyber attacks against computer-enabled U.S. election infrastructure, it is most likely beyond the means of our adversaries to use cyber attacks to affect a covert and widespread shift of the recorded votes to decisively favor a particular candidate. This is not because adversaries lack considerable capabilities, but because the U.S. electoral process is a highly decentralized procedurally and technologically diverse activity, because the will of the voting public is itself dynamic, shifting up to the day of the election. These factors make it difficult or impossible for even highly capable, clandestine, widespread manipulation of election results likely beyond capability. Okay. We agree with this. Okay, real quick. I'm curious where she fucking pulls this quote from. To influence the election by using... Oh, it's just this. It's just, this is such a fucking lie of a quote. Her first point here is, in the months leading up to the November 2016 election, the intelligence community consistently assessed that Russia is probably not trying to influence the election by using cyber means. That's the quote that she has. But the quote that she's pulling here is just from this guy's email trying to clarify language. And the full quote is not... The full quote is not, they're probably not trying to influence the election by using cyber means. The quote is, Russia probably is not and will not be trying to influence the election by using cyber means to manipulate computer-enabled election infrastructure. That's the full quote. She's literally lying about the quote. That very same email goes on to say, next. Holy shit, he looks awful. Okay, well, I don't even know if it's worth it to go deeper into this claim. Obtain the capability 6 ways. Widespread and undetected cyber attacks in the diverse set. Okay. The decentralized nature of the U.S. election system is a potential source of strength, although lamenting that the United States lacks centralized standards for its... Okay, don't care. Okay, we know that. Low-level detectable attacks pose most likely threat. Okay. Cyber activists might attempt disruptive cyber attacks such as DDoS. We judge that even without linkage to any plan or intent to disrupt. Targeted attacks within the reach of many adversaries. We judge that they can execute a variety of disruptive cyber attacks, including data corruption. Doesn't he talk to that woman? Despite the diverse nature of the computer-enabled U.S. infrastructure, we judge most adversaries can develop sufficient understanding of the U.S. political system to enable identification, targeting the most critical. So, and maximize the psychological impact of your minor cyber attacks. Okay, this has to do with cyber attack stuff, basically. Okay, Russia. Potential interest in disrupting U.S. election. Key judgment for we judge Russia has conducted cyber and intelligence operations that suggest that it has potential interest in disrupting the U.S. presidential election. Okay. Russia is probably the most capable and willing actor to conduct such operations based on its probable involvement in U.S. election-related disclosures. The downward trend, the bilateral relationship, and Russian leaders deeply helped police at Washington to try to influence past Russian elections. We assess that Russian intelligence services were behind the compromises of the DNC and DCCC networks and of email accounts from members of Congress, state political parties, a voter registration organization, and 7 other U.S. political organizations. We have high confidence in our assessment. Okay, that's kind of like a fucking... I don't... Cyber operations are only one component of a multifaceted toolkit the Russians employ to influence the outcome of elections in other countries. Russia also uses general media messaging to promote or disparage candidates and other tools, some of which we judge would be more difficult for the Kremlin to replicate in the U.S. Cyber influence operations that involve the release of compromising or embarrassing information, whether true or fabricated, are force multipliers for Moscow's media messaging that can be used to grab headlines quickly in what is an otherwise very open and diverse U.S. media environment in which the Kremlin cannot control the message as easily as in other countries. Because Russia has probably orchestrated at least some of the disclosures of DNC and DCC documents from June to August 2016. Our assessment is based on the timing of the disclosures and the fact that Russian intelligence was in possession of the leaked information from both the DNC and DCCC that the online persona Gooseper 2.0 claimed to have provided. The FBI and NSA, however, have low confidence in the attribution of the data leaks to Russia. They agree that the disclosures appear consistent with what we might expect from Russian influence activities, but note that we lack sufficient technical details to correlate the information posted online to Russian state-sponsored actors. So the FBI and the NSA have low confidence. Who is us? Who is us here? Who's doing this? This is an intelligence community assessment. When they say us, who is that being written by? Is that just like the collective? The collective. Okay, whatever the intelligence community assessment thing is here, I guess. Okay. Oh, actually, it says it right here. This is probably the agency. Oh, I bet what's being censored here is these are the individual agencies that are assessing. If I knew like all the agency names, maybe we could figure out due to the length. Or this could be like 2 or 3 different agencies here. Maybe? Or like a name, somebody, like a director of... Maybe? If the disclosures of the DNC and DCCC documents were indeed orchestrated by the Russian intelligence services, those services would very likely have sought Putin's approval for the operation. We make this assessment because of the expected high-profile nature of the resulting controversy and the high likelihood that disclosure would be linked to Russia because of open-source reports about Russian involvement in the DCC and DCCC hacks. Proposals for more routine Russian information operations might originate from the central apparatus of intelligence services. The Kremlin sabotage of U.S. political parties serving the timing of probable Russia is motivated to exploit the period surrounding. Okay. For example, Putin may simply wish to make the U.S. electoral process appear illegitimate or to undermine the legitimacy of the president-elect. Is that worth including? I feel like this is strong enough. Put on your reading lights? Oh, true. It's loading. Okay, China, we don't care about. Non-state actors, including ISIS. Probably don't care about. Possible state-level election network breaches and related intrusions. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm calling paramedics and your family, Mr. Miller.
I've fallen, and I can't get up.
I'm calling paramedics.
Okay. Estimative language. Why would you have words for different every 10 percentage points? Why not just like write like 70% likelihood? Okay, let's see. Cyber threats to U.S. election unlikely to alter voting outcomes. We already know this. This is redundant, stupid, stupid. Okay, December 7th, and now we're past the election. With the PC having moved to Friday, what is that? PC having moved to Friday. Personal, what do we say? Please send me proposed TPs and scene setter by 1500 on Thursday. Thank you. Separately for everyone's reference, below are the revised TPs that the DNI mentioned at the back brief yesterday. What I did was lift key lines from the draft PDB that is attached. Jesus Christ. Activity on it since election day. We suspended did not use cyber attacks on election infrastructure to alter the U.S. presidential election outcome this year. We have no evidence of cyber manipulation of election infrastructure. There was, however, minimal targeting of election infrastructure, probably by cyber criminals, to steal data. Since the election, cyber actors linked by signals intelligence to Russia's SVR on the 9th of November conducted multiple election-themed spear phishing campaigns. This is on December 7th. Okay. Large quantities of emails, purportedly Clinton Foundation election post-mortems from a Harvard University email address, were sent to individuals in national security, defense, international affairs, public policy, and European Asian study organizations. Cities are multiple government agencies reporting received the emails prior to the election. There were 2 reported instances of compromise against state election networks. DNC intrusion. The U.S. Intelligence Committee has high confidence in its attribution of the intrusions into the DNC and the DCCC networks based on the forensic evidence identified. Most IC agencies assess with moderate confidence that Russian services probably orchestrated at least some of the disclosures of U.S. political information. Our level of confidence is based on the timing of the Russian intelligence was in possession of leaked information. In addition, the disclosures of White House emails by the DC Leaks website appears to be consistent with the tactical motivations of the Russian government. I expect the DNI will attend the Russia Cyber Restricted PC on 12/7. Let's see. For the president on December 8th. On December 7th, 2016, after the election, talking points were prepared for DNI James Clapper stating, okay, what are we looking for? Page 42-ish? Foreign adversaries did not use cyber attacks on election infrastructure to alter the US presidential. Okay, so this is another half quote. The full quote reads, or the full quote follows. The bullet points following state. Okay. Good one. Research recap? I'll do it in a bit. Let me just... Okay, so that was on December 7th. For the president on December 8th. Let's see, we says that Russian and criminal actors do not impact recent years' sanction by conducting missions. Okay, we don't care about any of this. Or this. Wait, says foreign adversaries will likely weigh the risk of appearing to influence what are implicated. Introduction of new technologies. One, okay. Moves to create additional internet connections to, okay, don't care about this. Okay, don't care about this. Okay, okay. This piece will build upon our previous 14 September PDBs, President Daily Briefings, by providing assessments on observed cyber activity against U.S. elections up until 8th November. While there were notably more high-profile cyber operations surrounding this election cycle, this piece discusses election infrastructure specifically and what we observed. What are one or two key takeaways from this article? We have low to moderate confidence that Russian government-affiliated actors used common tactics to successfully compromise an Illinois voter registration database and use similar infrastructure and tools to unsuccessfully engage comparable infrastructure in multiple other states. Probable cyber criminals and hacktivists also likely participate in low-level targeting of election infrastructure. Okay. We don't care about this. December 8th still. For clarification, the SC probably won't be done until mid-January. We're tentatively shooting for January 9th to send a possible draft, possibly final version of POTUS. We are hoping for final agreement on scope, length, classification to come out of a PC on Friday. The room's thoughts were that it was worth going ahead with the PDB if possible now to provide our current understanding of what happened during the election, and that worst case, the IC has some language and an associated briefer note explaining any changes between the products. It is okay if you really need to run them simultaneously, but recognizes an issue of high level of congressional and White House interest right now, and to do below would postpone its publication for a month. This is on December 7th. I'm okay with that. As with last time, we'll probably send out the ICA and the PDB near the same time to make sure they have the same bottom lines. That was a bit of a balancing act previously. December 7th still. December 7th still. Just tried calling you. Hi, good afternoon. The email is blah, 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 blah. Discussion. Are we at December 9th yet? Nope, still December 7th. Seem to agree it's worth still running the PDB if Pass is interested with something. Jesus Christ. So from somebody, FBI. Thanks for sending the revision. We will take a closer look at it tomorrow. December 8th still. December 8th still. Upon seeing the email below, the only difference that I was aware of being between FBI and the INA over this transparently developed product was overconfidence level on the attribution, which we have adjusted to the FBI's view upon review of the recent redacted blank collection. Rather than drafting a dissent, perhaps FBI could share their concerns with the most recent draft attached. I think it goes without saying that the PDB should not go forward until the FBI has done so. This is on December 8th still. Yeah, we're drafting a dissent this afternoon. Please remove our seal of annotations of co-authorship. We have so far received responses from FBI, CIA/NIC, and NGA. What is the NGA? What the fuck does that stand for? The National Geospatial Intelligence. Oh my god, how many fucking intelligence agencies do we have? National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. Please provide coordination responses ASAP if you have not been able to yet. Thanks for understanding and trying to accommodate. Jesus. Hi all. Due to high administration interest, this piece is now scheduled to run tomorrow. Therefore, we now ask that coordination responses be sent by 2 p.m. so that the production process for tomorrow can be completed. This is still December 8th. Hi all, DHS. What are we on? What date? Still, oh, now back to December 7th. Requesting coordination from all recipients by Cobb on the 8th of December for the Cybersecurity Elections PDB. Cobb Intelligence. The fuck does this stand for? Coordinate? No. Oh my fucking god. Counterintelligence Operations Board? Do you think that's what it is? Close of business? Oh, by close of business. Oh, I usually see EOD for end of day. But okay, gotcha. Close of business. Close of business is probably better because if I sign something, I say I'll get that to you by EOD. That means before I go to sleep. So it might be 5 a.m. Because it's the end of my day, okay? Please coordinate your response with your agency. Let's see. 8th of December. Based on some new guidance, we are going to push back publication of the PDB. It will not run tomorrow, and it is not likely to run until next week. Summary of conclusions from meeting of the principals committee. Okay. This is her big meeting that she gets triggered about. Okay, so we have okay, so this claim is a lie. This claim is a lie. Now we're on December 9th. President Obama's White House gathered top National Security Council principals for a meeting. Okay. It was agreed that principals agreed to deny Russia the use of its residential and recreational compound at Pioneer Point on the Chesapeake Bay. Ooh. Principals also recommended, pending the views of the U.S. mission to the UN, in legal review, denying Russia the use of its residential and recreational compound in Glen Cove, New York. Oh, they're getting kicked out of the clubs. Damn. The Department of State noted its preference that any action against the compounds be delayed too, among other things, allow for a potential agreement on Aleppo to be implemented. The state will also provide a matrix of possible Russian responses. Principals concurred with a number of measures state proposed to take with respect to Russian visas, in particular, leaving to the discretion of state and the FBI the issuance of U.S. visas for Russian intelligence officers holding Russian diplomats to the 48-hour travel notification requirement and limiting the number of exceptions provided to Russian diplomats. State and FBI will draft for further legal and policy review a proposal for removing a number of suspected Russian intelligence officers in the United States. The principals considered the cyber options and recommended against conducting either a spear phishing campaign or a denial of service attack against certain Russian entities. Principals agreed to recommend sanctioning of certain members of the Russian military intelligence and foreign intelligence chains of command responsible for the cyber operations as a response to cyber activity that attempted to influence or interfere with the U.S. elections, if such activity meets the requirements for designation under Executive Order 13694. Principals were divided on whether to issue the designations of Belin and Bogachev under EO as part of the response to Russian interference in our electoral process. Some principals opposed designations because conduct in question was unrelated to the election, related activities, and B, absent a tie to the elections, any package or designation should include the two Chinese companies for which sanctions packages have also been developed. To the maximum extent feasible, consistent with sources and methods, principals agreed to publicly release and attribute to Russian intelligence services technical and other information about A, Russian intrusion set, and B, the recent Russian spear phishing campaign highlighted in intelligence reporting on December 9th. The Cyber Response Group will coordinate the development of the plan for public release based on input from the CIA, the NSA, and the FBI. Okay, so this is it. The recommendation appears to be fully consistent with the earlier ICA. Nothing new has been spun up here by Obama or Clapper. Quoting from the recommendations from the meeting. Let's see, December 9th. Hello, leadership team. I chatted with Blank tonight on our plan. Our plan is to have the CIA, CCI to put together Part B, I, and DHS put together 3. Recommendations to protect. CIA, EEMC is to put together Part B2 and B3. We will be the NIC firewall for those sections. Our team will man the Part B1. We'll send our coordination last week of December and first week of January for IC seniors to sign off and aim for delivery by January 9th. Our plan is to put this into an ICA with annexes. We will also decide how to integrate the DHS recommendation section later. We'll use some parts. Okay. Let's see. Another December 9th email. All pursuant to the POTUS tasking at Monday's meeting on Russian election meddling for a comprehensive assessment, the DNI broached the TPs below. with Dennis McDonough, McDonough, Jesus, and DCIA at the Russian PC this afternoon. What do TPs mean? TPs, meetings, abbreviation. What does that mean? What is a TP? Oh, I need to go to the guess. Nobody knows. Good one. Well. Oh, third parties, maybe? Rather than brief it, he just handed a copy of the TPs. No, it's some kind of report. Transcript, talking points, maybe? Training? No, maybe? Rather than brief it, he just handed a copy of the TPs to Dennis and mentioned it to DCIA, who both said they were okay with the proposal. I'm sure there may be some bureaucratic hurdle still, but the DNI's directive was to move forward with the paper as outlined. I don't believe they discussed the nitty-gritties prior formats. We'll have to proceed as we think best. For reference, I've attached the public statement that ODNI and DHS put out about the Russians before the election, which also those Q&As were not published separately. I also promised this assessment of the SSCI and its farewell roundtable. More we got a mail from Congress asking that all members get a classified briefing on the Russian election issue. Maybe it's, it might be talking points, I guess. The IC is prepared to produce an assessment for the president's request that pulls together the information we have on the tools Moscow used and the actions it took to influence the 2016 elections. An explanation of why Moscow directed these activities and how Moscow approached has changed over time. Going back to 2008-2012 as reference points. Okay. The goal would be to produce a highly classified version and an unclassified version. The classified version would include a comprehensive analysis of Russia's activities derived from all available sources, with a delivery date, target delivery date of January 9th. The unclassified version would follow the classified delivery and to the greatest extent possible include the same information, also protecting source and methods. Goal will be to make the unclassified document publicly available. Questions, issues for the PC. What does the PC stand for? Project coordinator, maybe? Will the priority be on developing a paper that can be shared and released, or one that is a comprehensive and authoritative account of the Russian activity that took place? What are the expectations for publicly releasable elements of the assessment? ODNI proposes that a classified, compartmented assessment to be delivered to POTUS by the 9th of January. Broader dissemination document and public... We can Friday broader... Maybe personal contact? No, I don't think so. What do we have? Moving forward. Just tasking the Wake of Friday's PC. And the media frenzy over the weekend. DNI is asked to move the time forward, aiming at a January 3rd delivery date. He knows this means many of us will be working through the holidays, expected to do so. With the expedited timeline in mind, I'd like to have a working draft together by next Wednesday to do this. Media agencies need to identify the POCs for this right away and allow them to serve offline for the next week or so. NIO Cyber Blank, and I will divide and conquer with you. Substantive POC. We'll hear from either. Okay. Future would be best of OLA, POA, and OGC. Oh my fucking god. Are on the group VTCs or discussions with the DNI addressing rollout planning. We're working with WH and IC Leg and Comms team. Said I was not tracking on a special briefing of gang of 8 members. Timeline is most helpful. Thank you. DNI folks at the NIC just at a VTC virtual teleconference, maybe? About the IC report on the Russian election meddling that POTUS tasked us to do. Right now, we are planning 3 versions of the report. A high classified version, a low classified version, and an unclassified version. The reason for a low class version is that high class version may contain some operationally sensitive details not appropriate for the Congress. Okay. This is the ICA, another ICA? Okay. January 5th, 2017. This is at page 82. Is there a date on this ICA? For the president. Wait, not this. This. September 12th, 2016. Okay. Oh, okay. I have this. Nice. Okay. Probably watch tomorrow, and I respect the effort you plan on, but you know he will just deny the credibility of anything. Oh, true. Thanks. I should just not bother reading anything because the people I debate are fucking retards. Thank you. True. Thank you. Based. Thank you. All right. Okay. So this is the January 5th ICA. This ICA on January 5th. Is there another one, a January 6th one? Or are they talking about this one on January 5th? The same claims made in the earlier ICA from September 14th. Okay. Moscow's influence campaign followed a Russian messaging strategy that blends covert intelligence operations, cyber activity with overt efforts by Russian government agencies. The Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, General Staff. Okay. Who was in a position to tamper with some voter registration database, but that and the types of systems Russian actors targeted compromise were not involved in vote tallying. Moscow will apply lessons learned from its Putin-ordered campaign aimed at... Okay. Putin and the Russian government aspired to help President Trump. Putin believed the Panama Papers disclosure and the Olympic doping scandal were U.S. directed efforts to defame Russia, judging from Blank and his public comments suggesting he sought to use disclosures to discredit the image of the United States and cast it as hypocritical. Nice. Putin most likely wanted his intelligence services to discredit Secretary Clinton because he has blamed her since 2011 for inciting mass protests against his regime in late 2011 and early 2012, and holds a grudge for comments that he almost certainly saw as disparaging him, judging from press reporting. Given this, we assess with high confidence that the group was directed to pass material it collected to WikiLeaks and other intermediaries. We assess Putin, his advisors, and the Russian government developed a clear preference for President-elect Trump over Secretary Clinton. We base this assessment on some meme and Russian state media indicating that Russian officials saw President-elect Trump as more favorable to key Russian interests and more in line with Putin's preference for leaders he views as deal makers. Throughout the election, Russian government officials characterized Secretary Clinton and Democratic politicians as particularly unfriendly to Russian interests. Beginning in June, Putin's public comments about the U.S. presidential race avoided directly praising President-elect Trump, probably because Kremlin officials thought that any praise from Putin personally would backfire in the United States. Nonetheless, Putin publicly indicated a preference for the president-elect's stated policy to work with Russia, and pro-Kremlin figures spoke highly about what they saw as his Russian-friendly positions on Syria and Ukraine. Putin contrasted President-elect Trump's approach to Russia with Secretary Clinton's aggressive rhetoric, according to Russian press reporting. The Kremlin has historically preferred Republican over Democratic candidates, judging that Republicans have been less focused on democracy and human rights and were therefore easier to deal with. Putin has had many positive experiences working with Western political leaders whose business interests Moscow assessed made them more disposed to deal with Russia, such as former Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi and former German Chancellor Gerhard Schroeder, judging from Blank and the press. Putin, Russian officials, and other pro-Kremlin pundits stopped publicly criticizing the U.S. election process as unfair almost immediately after the election because Moscow probably assessed it would be counterproductive to building positive relations. We assessed the influence campaign and aspired to help President-elect Trump's chances of victory, when possible, by discrediting Secretary Clinton and publicly contrasting her unfavorably to the president-elect. Later in the summer, senior Russian diplomats and intelligence officers assessed Secretary Clinton was likely to win the presidency, judging from Blank and Russian press reporting. As a result, we assessed the Russian government began to focus more on undercutting Secretary Clinton's legitimacy and crippling her presidency from its start, including by impugning the fairness of the election. Moscow, therefore, held back some pre-election influence efforts for potential later use. Pro-Kremlin bloggers had prepared a Twitter campaign, #DemocracyRip, on election night in anticipation of Secretary Clinton's victory, according to well-informed Russian journalists. Moscow had additional information it obtained from cyber collection against U.S. government and non-government targets that it could have used against Clinton administration policies and nominees based on Blank Russian intelligence collection efforts. Nice. Do you think you could ever get a conservative to admit that objectively Putin views Republican/Trump better for his interests? I never see them get asked or pressed on this. I don't know. Tomorrow will be frustrating, probably, because this is just like such a no-brainer. The only way that Rob Noor can come out of this alive is with he's gonna have to fight to the death on some like autistic syntax or whatever, like defining some word in an incredibly retarded way. Let's see. GC leaks, corporations, grew intrusion into U.S. state, cyber espionage against U.S. political organizations. Does Rob Noor deny that Guccifer 2.0 was a GRU operation? Is that a thing I'm going to have to fight on? Like, is he going to be like, well, how do you know that? Because all of our intelligence agencies plus Mueller, everybody seems to agree that it was GRU. Hmm. $2021, right? Oh, this is good info. Page 91. Kremlin's principal international propaganda outlet RT has actively collaborated with WikiLeaks. RT's editor-in-chief visited WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. They discussed Iranian's broadcast control. Armenia similarly announced that RT become the only Russian media company to partner with WikiLeaks. These election-related disclosures reflect a pattern since 2014 of the GRU using hacked information and a prominent target since 2016 has been the World Anti-Doping Agency, with leaks that we assess to have originated from the GRU. We saw Russian and some Republican-affiliated targets. Oh, nothing. Okay. I wonder why that's censored. Russian cyber intrusions into state electoral infrastructure. The GRU accessed elements of several confirmed and possibly Congress, California voter registration. Unidentified actors in the GRU infrastructure. Okay, don't care about this. Email addresses to respective group and made connections. Type system we observed Russian actors targeting or compromising are not involved in vote telling. Is Twitch no way liable for Hassan doxing other people? I think they are. I think, yeah, if they're not banning Hassan for it, I mean, I feel like Twitch would be liable for that, yeah. Oh. Wait, who brought this up recently? Was this Anna? Or was this somebody else? Blank indicates the likely financier, no, it was somebody else, of the so-called Internet Research Agency of Professional Trolls, located in, oh no, it was, Reason Riffs? Is he the one who read it up? Located in St. Petersburg, close Putin ally, Yevgeny or whatever, Prigozhin, has confirmed ties to the GRU. We are working to determine the further extent of ties between their Internet Research Agency and the Russian intelligence services. The likely financier. So he's the guy who financed it. Somebody said that, just told us that recently. Journalist who is a leading expert on the IRA claimed that some social media accounts that appear to be tied to Russian because they previously started to advocate for Russian elections. Okay. Okay, Russia attacks, blah, blah, blah. Okay. This is the annex. Do we care about any of this? Jesus Christ. You okay, buddy? RT aired a documentary about the Occupy Wall Street movement on the 1st, 2nd, and 4th of November. RT framed the movement as a fight against the ruling class and described the current U.S. political system as corrupt and dominated by corporations. RT advertising for the documentary featured Occupy movement calls to take back the government. The documentary claimed that the U.S. system cannot be changed democratically, but only through revolution. After the November 6th U.S. presidential election, RT aired a documentary called Cultures of Protest about active and often violent political resistance. Nice. Okay, this is for RT. September 19th. I think you just need to respond to the request based on a plain reading of what it is asking. If you have further questions or responsive, I think you can link you to the FOIA officers, and they probably have better expertise to guide you. Obviously, this all predates me. Why are these out of order? We do have at least one NIC person who's been here for the whole period and worked on that paper. Me, I have at least one email I'll send to blank. It is a complete snoozer, OSINT based, but technically a match if the dossier material was used by the NIC, unless it is also compartmented. The NIO intentionally deceived and excluded me from things I was cleared for and had need to know throughout his entire tenure here. I prefer to think that isn't true, but if it was, we have a problem. If instead Shelby or blank are misspeaking about what the NIC was, considering in its analysis, it's a pretty reckless idea to fling out in an FOUO email? What is FOUO? Fuck off, you all blah. I have no idea. Action required on FOIA search. What the fuck is this even about? Jesus. So this is all the way back in September. You're asking for any guidance or action by me, or is this just informational? You. To you only this time. You first. When I search all my mail high side items, only 9 hits match, Steal plus dossier, and I believe these are 1 error plus 8 open side news compilations sent to me as a member of a wide distro. Oh, for official use only. Only one of those is as old as 2017. I can also run low side if needed. However, because I'm under unresolved congressional retention orders regarding Russian elections, preventing deletion of anything Russia/election related, I have thousands of emails on both systems that might hit on wider search terms, and to sort through them is impractical. Second, regarding the email below, I'm choosing my words carefully for your awareness because of the premise of the message is concerning. As you know, I was a deputy on the NIO cyber team, also the de facto elections team, blah, blah, blah. I've intermittently participated in IC foreign influence. I was asked by NIO Cyber to participate in the analytics scrub of the non-compartmented version of what I think is the 2017 ICA reference below, and included no dossier reference that I recall. I was not / am not in all the Russia compartments, and so I did not participate in the crafting of the compartmented version. At no point did blank suggest there was any analytically significant reporting that I was not seeing. With the exception of compartmented material, I asked repeatedly because of analytic concerns I held regarding a KJ that remained unresolved to this day. At no point did I see or consider what I gather is or was represented to be dossier materials. Wait, is this going to be contradicted at some point, or is this guy literally saying that there are absolutely no dossier materials involved? Where is this coming from? September 18th email quotes. Say the analytics scrub of the non-compartmented version where I included no dossier reference that I recall. Any update on the buddy puppets? Not yet. If the Lawrence Bridge is burned, depending on how she felt after, turn her defenses into a soundbar. We'll see. I think we're maybe okay. Who knows? I haven't checked my phone yet. That much. Okay. 10 out of 10 meme.
2025? So what do? Will you pull up your Skyphone 16 Pro and you open up TikTok in Skyrim?
We can go die for Ulfric.
Fuck that, we can go steal a horse.
19 breaks for an iron mace.
Pebble pump with the venom tax. I got the magic, the health, the stamina, and Estrid. She said I got
It's got to the point that I don't even care. I got grip in the shop that I don't even wear.
This is so insane. The Empire deserved the Thalmor invasion, dude. Fuck it, I'm saying
Whoa. Okay.
In a board game.
Okay.
Like, we totally brought it upon ourselves, dude. Holy shit. We did. We fucking did.
Khajiit has cryptocurrency. If
Okay.
you have coin, get rich quick.
None of this shit.
Khajiit coin go to moon.
That's enough.
You disgust me.
Jesus. Any hopes of A being back soon? I don't know. Good question. Cyber Blank to participate in the analytics scrub of the non. Okay, I did hear secondhand from Blank, ostensibly recounting words of the DNI of then DNI Clapper on the day of a briefing to current. Then I think just like POTUS about inclusion of dossier materials in a presentation of POTUS Select. This was characterized as an unexpected and unwanted sudden unilateral act by the DIR, FBI Comey, and as a source of concern to the DNI. To this day, I have never seen or reviewed dossier materials in a work setting. I did recently hear them referenced by two colleagues in terms of in terms consistent with the email below, which struck me as concerning and at odds with my personal experience working election issues during 2015-2017. With that single recent exception, other than the email below, at no time in my IC career has dossier material ever been represented to me in a work setting as something the NIC viewed as credible or that was influential in crafting NIC products. Okay. I'm sure that Tulsi has something to counter these things, right? Page 110. Bottom line, though I am glad to have been spared exposure to the material, if it was influential, I hope it was in a compartment I'm not in, because otherwise, given my 5 years of working these topics at PDP and ICA level, to include the TS/CI version, what I believe to be the ICA reference, we may have a different information issue. Respectfully, blank. Election group. Suspense COB Tuesday. Shelby believes this should be responded to by the NIC as the dossier was a factor in the 2017 ICA on the election interference in which an assessment of the document was added as an annex. Oh, was that in the annex? Hold on. Oh, maybe here? Annex A. Okay. Russian strategic messaging for Russian government. RT leadership closely tied to, but none of this was very consequential or important, no? The Kremlin, formal dissociation from the Kremlin. Okay, yeah, the first time it gets mentioned is... Does this get mentioned any earlier? No? Okay. Please review the attached document and conduct a search for the time period May 2016 through February 2017 of all records of communication, including emails on both.gov, between the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, including not only to former ODNI Director James Clapper and the Office of the Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, including not limited to former FBI Director James Comey, regarding a collection of memos known as the Steele Dossier. Thanks. Okay. See FOIA request attached and below. Please review the attached request. After reviewing the attached request, you're unsure what is being asked for. Okay, so this is a FOIA request for dossier stuff. But the response isn't in here. Okay, maybe it's in the next one? Okay, Jesus. Alright, that's the long one. The next one is 11 pages. Intelligence community suppression of intelligence showing Russian criminal actors did not impact the 2016 presidential field cyber attacks on... Okay, the timeline of events as evidenced by the attached documents is as follows. Key intelligence manipulated and withheld from the American people. Before the election, August 31st, 2016, a DHS official tells former DNI James Clapper that there was no indication of a Russian threat to directly manipulate the actual vote count. Okay, September 2nd, 2016, the FBI request for the whistleblower's pre-election assessment on alleged Russian election activity and upcoming pre-election to be softened given the FBI was uncomfortable implying there was definitive information that Russia does intend to disrupt our elections. That was in September, okay, but at ODI and PDB official says that an outgoing PDB should make it clear that Russia's probably not trying to influence the election by using cyber means to target election infrastructure. We all know that. Okay, this is an email we read. We assess that they're more likely to do that. Okay, we see that. The IC publishes an intelligence community assessment on cyber threats to the election. The report finds foreign adversaries do not have and probably will not have the... Okay, we see that, yeah. 2 days later, the IC publishes the aforementioned PDB with the identical findings. It finds that foreign adversaries... Okay. ODNI and DHS suppressed the above September intelligence findings in their press release that states with confidence that Russian government directed the DNC and DCCC hacks. None of this is contradictory, though, but this is all set up in here as well. So this is just a lie. This is a lie right here. Their statements omitted the fact that the FBI and NSA had low confidence in attributing the data leaks from these entities to Russia. I don't think that's what they wanted to soften their language on the fact that Russia would definitely try to disrupt the election. This is a separate claim. They're still supporting evidence indicating the Russian government directly... Okay, yeah. Donald J. Trump defeats Hillary Clinton and wins the election. After the election, the IC is working on a new PDB examining the potential impact of cyber hacks on the election results. DNI Clapper's office develops talking points. Foreign officers do not use cyber attacks. Yes. We have no evidence of cyber manipulation. Okay. December 8th, IC officials discuss the draft PDB, which finds that Russian criminal... We see that. We know that. Okay. A few hours later, after initially co-authoring the PDB, the FBI... inexplicably withdraws from coordinating on the product and notifies other IC officials the FBI will be drafting a dissent. Wait, this is a lie. Wait, what? I thought they just said they needed more time. Hold on, we saw this. Also, wait, what was the date on this? Hold on. We'll be drafting a dissent. Please remove our seal. So I was between the FBI and the INA with transparency. Product was over confidence level on the attribution, to which we have adjusted upon review. Rather than drafting a dissent, perhaps FBI could share their concerns. I think it goes without saying the PD should not go until the FBI has done so. Okay, FBI will be drafting a dissent this afternoon. Okay, we still received responses from FBI. Please provide coordination responses ASAP. Due to administration interest. Yeah, they pushed the publication of this back, I'm assuming until everybody was on board with it. A few hours later, after initially co-authoring the PDB, the FBI inexplicably withdraws from coordinating on the product, notifying the official that the FBI will be drafting a dissent. Okay, then later, a senior PDB official kills the PDB based on some new guidance. The post-election PDB, which once again assesses Russia down, was never published. Well, I feel like we've always known this. Is PDB for a presidential daily briefing? Is this going to be a thing that's published on like the internet somewhere? Or are they just talking about like press briefings? The meeting, email title, POTUS tasking director, tasking them with along with the okay. The same day, deep state officials kill you. Oh my god. And the IC began leaking blatantly false intelligence to the Washington Post, as proven by the unpublished PDP and preview. Okay. To the Washington Post, as proven by the unpublished. Okay, claiming that Russia used cyber means to influence the outcome of the election. Yeah, but that is true, though. I don't understand how he denies that. Unless he denies all the Guccifer stuff, he has to deny that intrusion. This is not a false statement. Later that evening, another leak to the WAPO falsely alleges that the CIA concluded in a secret assessment that Russia intervened. The CIA has concluded in a secret assessment that Russia intervened in the 2016 election to help Donald Trump win the presidency rather than just to undermine confidence. How is that a false allegation? That's what they say in the ICA. They all say that Trump was a preferred candidate. Do you think when they put this stuff out, they just don't expect anybody to read it? I guess. Okay. What is the date on this? Later that evening, the same day, specifically, after the meeting. Would this be December 9th? IC officials again leaked to the media, this time claiming that IC officials believe with a high level of confidence that Russia and Vladimir Putin was personally involved in the U.S. election hack. Where are they getting this quote? U.S. election hack. U.S. intelligence officials now believe with a high level of confidence that Russian President Vladimir Putin became personally involved in the covert Russian campaign to interfere in the U.S. presidential election, senior U.S. intelligence officials told NBC News. Where is the U.S. election? Why is this a quote? Where is this coming from in the article? That Russian President Vladimir Putin became personally involved in the covert Russian campaign, told NBC News. Oh, it's from the headline. Okay. U.S. officials. Putin personally involved in U.S. election hack. Okay, so that is the headline. New intelligence shows that Putin became personally involved in the computer breach. Two senior U.S. officials say. If this computer breach is referring to the DCCC or the DNC computer systems, then that's just true. I would argue that the headline is kind of sloppy, right? U.S. election hack. But I mean, it was. I think you should be more careful with this headline, but... Two senior officials with direct access to the information say new intelligence shows that Putin personally directed how hacked material from Democrats was leaked and otherwise used. Yeah, this is just true. None of this was false. Yeah, here's the attributing the Democratic National Committee hack to Russia. That's the DNC. Okay. Though President Obama admits there's no evidence of machines being tampered with during the election, he says he was concerned that potential odds could hamper vote counting and affect the actual election process. What I was concerned about in particular was making sure that WikiLeaks/Clinton emails wasn't compounded by potential hacking that could hamper vote counting and affect the actual election process itself. And so in early September, when I saw President Putin in China, I felt that the most effective way to ensure that that didn't happen was to talk to him directly and tell him to cut it out. God damn! Okay, but this makes sense. This is in line with all the other prior IC assessments. They literally said they're not really worried that like they could hack the whole election, but that if they were to do a targeted hack of even a very, very small system, that everybody else could like freak the fuck out over it. But that's consistent with all of the IC assessments so far that I've read. Reality, multiple IC assessments before and after the election consistently showed no credible reporting of Russian intent or capability to do what President Obama alleges. This is just a lie. That's just a fucking lie. That's exactly what they were alleging. They were worried that small-scale hacks could undermine public confidence. However, as seen in recent media reporting, any cyber activity directed against the election infrastructure is likely to have an effect on public confidence. This is used so many times in here. I think it's in the ICA assessments as well. We assess that foreign adversaries, notably Russia, are more likely to focus their cyber operations on undermining credibility/public confidence. Nonetheless, even the perception that such low-level intrusions and attacks have occurred risks undermining public confidence. Late December 2016. Do I need to include this claims? Is the Trump admin lying about the Russian conspiracy hoax? Fuck. I mean, this feels so stupid to even write down. It's just they're just playing language games with all of this. Due to the ODNI's whistleblowers questioning his leadership about why an IC assessment was being created that contradicted multiple IC assessments, the whistleblower is immediately removed from emails regarding the drafting of the Obama-ordered IC assessment. The whistleblower is sidelined by the fact that they led the IC on similar topics for just months prior. Who's this person? The National Intelligence Officer for Cyber pressures the ODNI whistleblower to accept a number of findings in the Obama ICA, including that the Russian government had a preference for President Trump. As for the 2017 ICA's judgment of a decisive Russian preference for then candidate Donald Trump, I could not concur in good conscience based on information available at my professional analysis. This is just one person. Okay. The ODNI whistleblower. Who is this guy? Do we have this guy's testimony or what? Who is this guy? Was this guy some guy in front of Congress or? January 6, 2020. The Obama administration shares the unclassified ICA with the public. It falsely alleges, based in part on further information that had come to light since the election, that Putin directed an effort to help President Trump defeat Hillary Clinton. This further information was later confirmed to be the Steele dossier. When is this confirmed? The assessment also suppresses intelligence from before and after the election, showing Russia lacked intent and capability to hack the 2016 election. This is vague and retarded. Deceives the American public by claiming the IC did not assess the impact of Russian activities. Reality, the IC did in fact assess for impact. The unpublished December PDB stated clearly that Russia did not impact the election through cyber hacks on the election. Okay. Says Russia was responsible for leaking data from the DNC and DCCC, while failing to mention the FBI and NSA had previously expressed low confidence. Yeah, but months had passed since the last ICA, so the confidence increased. Yeah, that's called time. And they literally say that new information had come to light. That was part of the January 6th assessment, right? The CIA and FBI have high confidence in this judgment based on sensitive information not included in this version of the assessment. NSA's moderate confidence. None of these statements were false. The ODNI whistleblower assists in a FOIA request related to the Obama ICA. Specifically, an IC official asks the ODNI whistleblower to search for material related to the Steele dossier as it was a factor in the Obama ICA. This revelation shocks the ODNI whistleblower, who had been told that DNI Clapper viewed the Steele dossier as untrustworthy. Okay, Shelby believes this should be responded to by the NIC as the dossier was a factor in the 2017 ICA election events. Okay, but this was added in as an annex, so it seems like that wasn't that important, no? Like it was just like thrown in somewhere, but not... Or does an annex mean it was relied upon for other things? The assertion was in contradiction to what the DNI had previously implied. At no time during the said any the National Intelligence Council staff member suggested to me that the ICV of the Steele dossier material as credible. ODNI whistleblower recalls learning of the Steele dossier's inclusion in the ICA. Hold on, wait, are they saying that this guy is a whistleblower? Because this whistleblower guy is saying that he never saw anything relating to But I don't have... Okay, maybe we'll get there. This is fucking retarded. Who is the ODNI whistleblower? What did he say / reveal? Given that almost all of their claims are incorrect, rely on word games relating to election hack, it would indeed appear that they are lying about their new claims. Alright, we have one more thing. 19 pages. What do we have here? Is this the whistleblower? From 2015 to 2020, I served as the Deputy National Intelligence Officer at the National Intelligence Council. For the first 4 years, I served as a DNIO Cyber and IC lead for East Asian cyber issues, a secondary area of my focus. Cyber. Okay. I led the production of the Intelligence Community Assessment on Cyber Threats to the 2016 U.S. Presidential Election, ICA 2016-37. This ICA was specifically tasked by then Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, during a secure video conference. Myself on the call. Oh, wait, did they say it, actually? The Russian hoax was... Okay, this is the whistleblower. Okay, what does he say? On the call, the DNI stated that then President of the United States, Obama, had urgently requested a comprehensive analysis on election security, and the DNI accepted blank proposal to deliver the analysis via the ICA format. I completed and delivered the 2016 ICA prior to the November 2016 polls. I was commended for these efforts in my annual performance review by blank and then vice chair by the NIC. After the 2016 polls, I participated in production of multiple intelligence reports, including presidential daily briefings, assessing if, how, and why Russia might have interfered in the 2016 election. The outgoing Obama administration tested a new ICA on the election. For the new 2017 ICA, was directed by blank to focus on Russian attempts to access U.S. election-related infrastructure. ICA reporting suggested many Russia-attributed IP addresses were making connection attempts that the ICA could not explain. The purpose of later, when presenting blank with our findings, blank directed us to abandon any further study of the subject, saying it's something else. In light of later development in open source reporting, I came to have concerns about this Russia-attributed cyber activity and the abrupt dismissal of the study effort. Russia could IP connections. Attempts the IC cannot explain the purpose of. Later, when presenting blank with our findings, blank to expand any further study of the sub. Okay. In addition, I noted other nations' efforts to influence the 2016 presidential election, but the critical context was omitted from the 2017 ICA during conversation with 2017 ICA to TS, SCI, and unclassified versions. Key context was not included, and I was pressured to alter my views on the 2017 ICA's key judgments, with the expressed intent by blank that my concurrence was sought to enable blank to sway the views of the Defense Intelligence Agency. In 2019, as a member of the NIC's classified election influence email distro, 2019, I received an email related to FOIA request blank that included commentary from NIC staff suggesting Steele dossier information was a factor in the 2017 ICA. Because this suggested a possibility that NIC staff, including blank, had misled other NIC staff, including myself, for several years, I reached out to NIC leadership specifically. The then NICVC blank was responsive. Response was dismissive and suggested that it is routine that we get material and don't share it with everyone, and it's not a matter of a particular clearance. Considering that I was part of the NIC's election influence team, this seemed inexplicable, especially since blank stated it was not a matter of clearance. Shortly thereafter, I was removed from the email distro without warning or explanation. I then contacted the IC Inspector General with concerns. In parallel, open source information led me to believe events that I had knowledge or records of might be relevant to ongoing federal criminal investigations. Throughout 2020, 2021, 2022, I urged the ICIG to convey the fact of my concerns and records and appropriate parties, culminating in an ICIG representative verbal statement to me. So this suggested a possibility to NIC staff. What? So this isn't saying that the Steele dossier was used for the ICA. It seems like it's just saying... Fuck, why is this hurting my ear? It seems like it's just saying somebody said that they might have gotten a copy of it, but they didn't use it or send it to everybody because maybe they didn't use it? Statements to me in early January 2017 regarding the 2017 ICA were... Wait, why do I even have these on? Let's turn my fucking speakers on. There's reporting you are not allowed to see. If you saw it, you would agree. Oh, statements to me in early January 2017 regarding 2017. Okay, there is reporting you're not allowed to see. If you saw it, you would agree. My response is that I concurred with varying confidence with most of the 2017 ICA's key judgments, but I would need to review any reporting myself in order to consider it. Isn't it possible Putin had something on Trump to blackmail and coerce him? After some debate, I declined to alter my own analysis based on the suggestion to provide context to my response weeks earlier. Wait, was there even anything in there about blackmail or whatever of Trump? What exactly did the ODNI whistleblower reveal? It doesn't. Doesn't seem he confirms anything about the Steel CA as being part of them. Maybe he does in a future thing. To provide context to my message weeks earlier, Blank had briefed several of us on a meeting Blank claimed to have come from the DNI. Following the DNI's return from his first meeting with POTUS-elect Trump, at which the DNI was accompanied by CIA Director John Brennan and OPI Director James Comey, according to Blank, the DNI had been surprised by Dr. Comey's unilateral last-moment inclusion of the Steele dossier in briefing material, supposedly inserted by Director Comey as the group rode together in a government vehicle. Blank had characterized the Steele dossier as being viewed by the DNI and Blank as well as non-credible sensationalism. To my knowledge, the material had never been taken seriously by the IC. I thus asked Blank if the IC now judged the Steele dossier allegations, something like them to be credible. Blank response was non-committal and evasive. Blank implied incriminating, compartmented reporting might exist, but I suspected Blank was echoing a public narrative as a way for me to justify logical contortions needed to arrive at the analytical judgment desired me to reach. You need to trust me on this. Further reiterated ongoing invocation that I abandon my tradecraft standards, has told me on prior occasions that Blank viewed my analyst culture and tradecraft as a pseudo-religion Blank did not share and had not stated I would need to demonstrate my ability to outgrow it in order for Blank to recommend my promotion to senior executive service position. I held firm and explained that the religion of analysts, as Blank called it, to which I belonged, meant I could not claim to concur with analysis that I don't believe in. Blank, now visibly frustrated, stated, I need you to say you agree with these judgments so that DIA will go along with them. Discussion between us ensued as on DIA's supposed trust in me and the necessity of proving my corporate IC officer bona fides. I plan to do so, citing my adherence to DoD analytic objectivity standards. I remember this conversation very clearly as it was a difficult situation and I listened and chose my responses with care. I was aware that I was defying the NIO's direction to me to misrepresent my views to the DIA based on a conscious decision to adhere to IC standards, tradecraft, and ethics. What do the emails say? Okay, to civil liberties. What? At dodig.mil? I contacted you because part of my concern involves activities by the USIC to include DoD officers that may constitute abuse of USG authorities as a means to violate the civil liberties of U.S. persons. Admittedly, this is only a small subset of my concerns, but as I was advised by SAFIG to reach out to the DoDIG, I thought you'd want to be included. This is July 9th, 2023. Okay. Moreover, as you are one of the only discoverable direct emails to anyone on the DoDIG team, please be advised that the hotline number does not appear to actually be staffed by anyone who can pick up in a timely time period, making it a de facto non-hotline. I would think that this in and of itself would be of concern about the DoDIG staff and oversight bodies. Finally, you have an alternate email address. Okay. From Civil Liberties to blank. Thank you for contacting the Department of Defense Office of Inspector General, FOIA, Privacy, and so. Okay. Thank you for your written declarations of June 26, 2023, copied verbatim below. That you are willfully and intentionally not informing Congress of intelligence oversight issues raised by USG. Okay. This person sounds very spy. This person just sounds... I don't even know what the fuck. P.S. Congressional staff, if you wish, please be able to convey this email to the staff of Senator Warner, who is my representative, but whose office has refused to provide me an email when I recalled requesting one. Greetings. Thank you for your opportunity to clarify our assistance. Our office is not informing congressional committees of your concerns, and we encourage you to contact your member of Congress and DoDIG. We cannot provide your issues to DoDIG on your behalf. If you have any questions or concerns, please reply to this email. Uh-oh, he mad. Uh-oh. And then this guy emails the SAF IG hotline on January 12th, 2023, in accordance with DODD, working with through my designated, I reported potential sensitive/highly sensitive matters regarding prior IC activities to include potential significant malfeasance by at least one DOD intelligence officer serving on the National Intelligence Council, potential malfeasance by non-DOD intelligence officers serving on the... I also reported my concerns over General Durham and possible. Okay. The DOD. I think at most this warrants asking other people's involvement from about their perspective. It isn't evidence. Well, yeah, but they did a FOIA request and none of this Steele dossier shit came up. There's this one guy who's, I guess, mad because people aren't responding to his assertions. But like, is there any evidence at all of any of this, or? As you have not responded to my June 16th question below, I myself attempted to contact duty IG, but waited for well over 1.5 hours on hold on the hotline without answer. Oh no. As congressional committees are currently investigating directly related matters which my submission may have bearing upon. Jesus Christ. Please advise me in writing if you have informed congressional committees regarding my submission, but not, or have not but plan to, or are deferring to the DOD IG. Okay. Between 2016 and 2022, through first-hand involvement, I became aware of multiple events that may have represented the use or attempted use of national security authorities to influence domestic politics. I believe some of these events may have influenced or been intended to influence congressional and public perceptions of the 2016 presidential election, and I am concerned others may represent attempts to obstruct lawful oversight. Issue 1. Unsolicited contact by a DC law firm and anomalous inquiry about IC officers briefing Congress on election hacking. In 2016, I participated in an anomalous contact between the IC and the Washington, D.C. law firm Squire Patton Boggs. I initially viewed this as an attempt to raise the profile of a cyber expert the law firm represented. In retrospect, I have concerned the engagement may have been an attempt to direct IC focus and analysis in order to shape congressional and public views regarding interference in the 2016 election. Pressure to misrepresent analytic judgments regarding the 2016 election. I expressed tradecraft concerns and analytic disagreements over a key judgment of the TSSI unclassified virtual object to the overall framing of efforts to influence as opposed to discredit the outcome of the 2016 election, and also judged that the 2017 stream of overt media activities was omitting important context. In response, Blink actively pressured me to change my judgments and stated clearly and directly to me that Blink sought my concurrence as a means to persuade the defense intelligence agencies that the DIA would provide Jesus Christ. Okay. Failure to provide diverse perspectives or formulate a comprehensive and holistic assessment of foreign influence as various intelligence products on Russian interference were written in a body of open English language. Russian media articles denigrating then candidate Clinton were assembled by the NIC. I was told this would be used in the unclassified version as a means to substantiate judgment. I do not contest the fact of abundant Russian media denigration of then candidate Clinton, but I was also aware of the denigration of multiple U.S. presidential candidates, to include an element to then candidate Trump by media outlets and many other nations, including NATO allies. My professional judgment in 2016 was that multiple nations were seeking to shape the views of the U.S. election, and that analytic objectivity demanded the IC pick one of two approaches. Either the IC must note the presence of an online competition for U.S. hearts and minds in which Moscow might or might not be the most active player, or establish a threshold for normal foreign media influence efforts directed at U.S. voters, which would then be excluded from the IC's high priority threat analysis. Okay. The assertion that the still dossier material had been used in 2017 ICA was in contradiction with what I had reviewed signed. I know time during the prior 3 years. It's just down to that one email? Ugh. Is there any proof? What's like, does anybody know, like, what's the strongest proof that this dossier was even part of any of the assessment? Is it just that one email? Vice chair. It's not part of the assessment. I don't even see it added to the annex, but unless that ICA is released somewhere. Jesus Christ. The new Intelligence Community Inspector General Thomas Bonham had been appointed. I emailed him directly on October 7th. He replied on October 15th stating he would follow up with his team. The 2022 meeting, the ICIG staff stated to me for the first time that the ICIG lacked a mechanism of authority to convey potentially relevant whistleblower information, potentially to the DOJ, Special Counsel, ICIG staff acknowledged the possibility of witness malfeasance being conducted by Special Counsel Trump, but the ICIG staff stated no procedure existed to pass information along. So I would say that I could have chosen to unless share my judgment that the fact of my concern was classmate agreed it was. Wait, so why didn't you just go to the DOJ IG? Did he? Self-initiated engagement with the representative of Special Counsel Durham during 2022 with no substantive follow-up. Why didn't he go to the DOJ Inspector General? I sought to contact Special Counsel Durham with this information, as advised as my only option by the ICIG representatives. Is that what they said? It said that the intelligence community inspector general couldn't do it. There is a DOJ inspector general. Is there not? DOJ IG. Yeah, there is an office of inspector general for the Department of Justice. Why not go there? No? Am I crazy? Okay. On March 28th, I signed and sent by U.S. priority mail a letter to Special Counsel Durham. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Bro, this guy is schizo as fuck. After days went by without any indication that a letter had been received and given the potentially criminal nature of some events which concerned me, and I contacted the Office of Virginia Attorney General, A.G. Mures, via U.S. priority mail. The Virginia Attorney General? Why not the Office of Inspector General for the Department of Justice? Shortly thereafter, I received a call from staff within the Office of Virginia A.G. Myers. They had received my letter and stated they would convey it to persons within the Office of Special Counsel. Then I received a phone call from blank, ostensibly supporting Special Counsel Durham. We spoke by phone to the extent it was possible at the unclassified level. On May 3rd, 2022, via blank, I sent blank a series of 10 emails sharing the situation and information I had, as well as additional concerns I held. The following day, I sent several more emails. Blank replied to the effect that the Special Counsel was busy with upcoming trials, but they would get back to me. There was no contact from Durham or anyone in the DOJ who was forthcoming. I was never asked to interview or to attest to any of the events or for a more detailed description of my concerns. On September 29, 2022, I emailed blank to note my concern that the ODNI classified email systems and networks were losing many of my files and email messages in the hopes that some preservation order or process might be initiated. At present, I do not know if Special Counsel Durham has ever been made aware of my concerns or data, and my records on ODNI systems continue to intermittently degrade. Okay, so what was this guy's role, or how high up was this guy even? I served as the deputy. Oh, a deputy national intelligence officer. Oh, this guy's just a fucking. This guy's just like basically like a low-level employee, no? I thought D was like director or something. Deputy national intelligence officer. He's just like a kind of like a supervisor guy or whatever, basically, no? Holy fuck. Oh, I thought this guy was like a director level or like sub-director, like deputy director guy. Okay. Can I look up how many like of these people? A senior official within the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, Director of National Intelligence, by overseeing specific intelligence activities. They're expert. Yeah, this is like a supervisor role basically, where he's like a he's not quite a national intel. Or wait, he's not a national intelligence officer. He's a deputy national intelligence officer. Okay. This is schizo as fuck. Fuck me. Fuck me. And fuck me. Okay. Jesus Christ. What do we have for... Break. Gabbard overrode CIA officials' concerns and pushed to release classified Russia report. Do I care about this? You have the clip I sent of just Tulsi talking about it. Jesus. Jesus Christ. We're not reading this. Fuck that. Anytime you've got the volume coming out. Christ. This is on August 18th of 2020 also. Actually, 1,348 pages? Yeah, okay. Okay. Oh, and I can't control F text? Yeah, good one, Chief. Control F. Steal. Dossier. Nope. Volume 2, 3, 4, 4, 5. Steal. Select. Committee. Yeah, okay. Dossier. Nope. Control F. Steal. No. Select. Committee. It does work. Okay. Dossier. No. Control F. Steal. Oh! Okay. We have some in this. What do we got? Discussion of the Steal reporting in the ICA. Okay. Oh, this is like directly relevant. Oh my goodness. Okay. And then we have hits on this, and then we have 966. Volume 5, holy shit. Holy shit. Okay, oh, there's a ton at the end. 720 hits. Okay. What do we got here? Discussion of the Steal reporting in the ICA. On page 38, the committee found the ICA provides a proper representation of the intelligence collected by CIA, NSA, FBI, and Russian interference, and this body of evidence supports the substitution of the ICA. Regarding FBI, the ICA states in its scope sourcing introduction that we also do not include information from ongoing investigations. The committee found that the information brought records were Steal the FBI was not used in the body of the ICA or to support any of its analytic judgments. However, a summary of this material was included in Annex A as a compromise to the FBI's insistence that the information was responsive to the personal. Oh, okay. So that's okay. Ooh, oh, fuck. I'm glad we stumbled onto this. Oh, I'm glad I clicked that link from the CNN article. I didn't want to. Okay. So what would this have been? The Senate Intelligence Committee. The Senate Intelligence Committee. This is good because it's also consistent with what that whistleblower guy leaked. Because the whistleblower guy said that the guy responding to him said that, oh, they just threw it in an annex, basically, describing what it was. Jesus, this is fucked. Alright, you know what? Fuck this. Page 7. Steele dossier was not used for the ICA. Committee found the ICA makes a clear argument for the manner aggressiveness was historically unprecedented. However, the ICA and its source did not provide a substantial representation for interference in 2008 and 2012 elections. The committee stands as part of the position. Committee found the ICA did not provide a policy recommendation on how to respond to future, which is part of the task. The ICA include. Okay. Okay. Steele. The CIA reported to the committee the same day, December 20th. FBI first informed the CIA's team that FBI wanted to include material derived from what had become known as Steele dossier, which from a former blank officer now operating a private commercial firm who had an social to the FBI. This material eventually became Annex A of the ICA, but its placement in the ICA was not resolved until December 29th. Okay. Discussion of the Steele reporting in the ICA. The CIA team working on the ICA first learned on December 20th, 2016 of information that the FBI held and wanted to include in the ICA. Despite the fact that the ICA explicitly excluded ongoing investigations, the FBI sought to introduce a summary of the material from former blank officer Christopher Steele. The committee reviewed the debate over whether and where to include the Steele materials with all participants to the drafting of the ICA. In the first meeting of the committee with Assistant Director of the Counterintelligence Division, the FBI, he articulated the FBI's concerns. First was the directive from the president to include all the information the IC had on Russian involvement in the 2016 presidential election, and this included material the FBI held. Even though the assistant director suggested that the FBI didn't want to stand behind it, it qualified for this directive. Second, the question immediately became how to handle this information in the drafting of the ICA. This is ultimately resolved by including the information as Annex A, a 2-page summary attached only to the most classified version of the ICA, the memorandum to the president version. FBI officials told the committee that they would have had a major problem if Annex A had not been included, and that the FBI believed they had to put everything in. The assistant director for blank recounted a conversation with FBI assistant director for CD. What does that stand for? Counterintelligence Division? Maybe? I don't know. For CD on December 20th, recalled the FBI's interest in weaving their dossier into the actual text of the report. Assistant Director for blank stated there was no visibility at the time in the writing of the report into the subsourcing dynamic for that dossier. Because of the subsourcing, I felt it was not appropriate for inclusion in the report. It would detract from the report. The Assistant Director for blank told the committee that when she asked the FBI Assistant Director for more information on the sources for the dossier, the Assistant Director told her the FBI's panel source had not provided information regarding the subsources, but that FBI was able to independently corroborate some of the subsourcing, but did not provide the names or reliability for the subsources. Assistant Director for blank said the FBI told her, we feel very strongly that it should be included and woven into the text, but the Assistant Director stated they would have to agree to disagree, and that her recommendation would be that the information not be included in the report. At a minimum, I was thinking it should be pulled out and put in an annex. Wait, fuck, where was I? 38. Okay. When asked to comment on Annex A as it appears in the ICA, Assistant Director for blank stated that she concurred with most of the language on the first page of what became Annex A of the ICA. However, from where the text in Annex A begins with the most politically sensitive claims by the FBI source alleging a close relation with the president-elect in the Kremlin, the Assistant Director for blank stated that from there on down, I can tell you that there is no information coming from blank sources that will corroborate any of that. The Assistant Director for blank also noted the FBI insisted on including the Steele reporting because they didn't want to look like they were hiding anything, and that, to me, that sounded fair. The Assistant Director for blank and her deputy reviewed the material and sent a copy to Director Brennan and Deputy Director Cohen. The Assistant Director for blank told the committee that her understanding was that the analysts were very much against putting the FBI material in the ICA. It was very unvetted information, according to the Assistant Director for blank, and some of it made sense. If you look at the theme, as the Russians were trying to mess with their election, that theme is certainly accurate, but the details were we wouldn't be able to come up with a good analytic confidence in them before the ICA was due. Ultimately, everybody agreed that it would just be an annex, and then it was agreed that there'd be a big caveat put on top of the annex that this is totally unvetted and unverified. The CIA analysts interviewed by the committee recalled at one point the FBI wanted the Steele reporting in the text of the ICA. The FBI wanted it on one form. We had it in a big text box on page 4. We had a bitter argument with the FBI to put it in an annex. One analyst acknowledged the material was already circulating and that if we hadn't addressed it, it would have either created the impression among people that we didn't go through the sourcing, that we had relied on it, who didn't go through the sourcing, that we relied on it, which we didn't, or that we were unaware of it. Deputy Director for Analysts stated, we would have never included that report in a CIA-only assessment because the source was so indirect. We made sure we indicated we didn't use it in our analysis, and if it had been the CIA-only product, if it had been a CIA-only product, we wouldn't have included it at all. Director Clapper later reiterated to the SSCI in a closed hearing on May 2018, I don't think you'll find in any of the footnotes in the ICA any reference to the dossier. We thought it important to include a summary description of it, but it was not included as an organic part of the ICA. Maybe a difference without a distinction, but to us that was a very important point. For our part, particularly the CIA and ODNI, so we could not validate the second and third order assets. That's why we did not use it as part of our assessment. We felt, and the whole reason particularly for Jim Comey's part, that we had a duty to warn the president-elect that it was out there, and that was the whole point, but it was not included as an organic part of the assessment. Okay. Director Brennan reiterated the CIA's reservations about the API steel material, and the DEA was very concerned about polluting the ICA with this material, and that there was stiff opposition, especially from the CIA, to include that material either in essence or in substance in the report, which is not used in any way as far as the judgment of the ICA were concerned. Okay, Jim Comey and the FBI felt strongly that here is a... it was only included in Annex A. In the most classified version of the report, it was acquired this information that comes from former foreign intelligence from a pretty respectable service that includes information of potential compromise related to Donald Trump. So Jim Comey, with some elegance, said, how can we have this report delivered to the outgoing president and the incoming president, and for he, Jim Comey, to be completely silent on this dossier that a lot of people have seen and that the FBI was following up on and doesn't know whether or not Mr. Trump is aware or not. When Brennan appeared before the SSCI in a closed hearing in 2018, he stated, initially the FBI wanted to incorporate it into the assessment itself. We all pushed back on that. They wanted it to be included as the last portion of the assessment. If it wasn't even going to be used as a finding, we pushed back against that. But Jim Comey made a very strong case, which we didn't object to, that it needed to accompany the assessment because it was related to the issue. We didn't know whether where the FBI's investigation was as far as some of those things. Director Brennan volunteered to the committee that around the time he received a call from Blank, who said that he wanted to make sure that I understood and that others in the senior officialdom of the U.S. government understood that the officer Steele had been a former Blank officer but had no current relationship with, what's it called? The MS-13? Just kidding. The British shit? What the fuck am I thinking of? And the dossier was not put together in any way with Blank's support, so we wanted to make sure there was a separation there. Oh, MI6. Is it, am I? Wait, was that the James Bond shit? Or are you fucking with me? No, MI6, yeah, fuck you. Director Comey addressed the question of dossier and displacement when asked by SSCI whether he insisted that dossier be part of the dossier in any way, shape, or form. I insisted that we bring it to the party, and I was agnostic as to whether it was a footnote in the document itself, put as an annex. I have some recollection of talking to John Brennan, maybe at some point saying I don't really care, but I think it's relevant and ought to be part of the consideration. The NSA played no role in the debate over the Steele reporting in the ICA. The NSA analysts told the committee they had no role in drafting, nor role in its inclusion, no role in reviewing the source material, became aware of it as it was appended. NSA analysts first heard of the information December 28th, had no insights into Steele's source network, and the Steele material had no effect on the NSA because the key judgments in the ICA. Okay. Placement of the Steele material resolved. The IC was finalized as a memorandum of the President, dated December 30th, handed to the NIOs, the NIC. Okay. Okay, the IC did not attempt to address ongoing investigations to include whether Russian intelligence center recruited all individuals. And the IC did not in any way inform the analysis in the IC, including the key judgments, because it was unverified information that had not been disseminated to serialized conference reporting. The was instead included. Okay, that's good to include here. On the Steele dossier. from page 50. Okay. We're on page 51. Committee sensitive. Okay. The LHM originally submitted. The committee was an FBI summary of materials FBI received from Christopher Steele. The LHM specifically cites various committee reports that are included in this material, which are compilation reports all titled submission. Prescript in an FBI era. The LHM did not support the ICA language cited. When the committee noted this anomaly, the FBI repeated conversation was not. Yeah, I withdrew this document. It's not until January. The FBI submitted the committee. LHM the ICA footnotes. FBI blank with proposed task. Fuck you. Summaries in Annex A. Conversation open source reference to October 31st, 2016 piece of Mother Jones. Okay. Okay. Committee sensitive Russian. Was there still stuff here? 17 hits. Is this more or less the same thing we just saw? I think this is what we just read, basically. Okay. 720 hits. Oh my god. Okay. This is still the Senate Intelligence Committee reports, I think, right? I know that Rob has huge problems with the Carter Page stuff in the Steele dossier. Jesus. The FBI, as part of its investigation into Russian interference, successfully obtained a warrant to conduct Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act authorized surveillance against Page. The initial FISA application was approved on October 21st after Page had left his role as an advisor of the Trump campaign. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court reauthorized surveillance 3 times, but authorization ultimately expired on October 22nd. In its application and renewal seeking FISA authorities, the FBI and the Department of Justice relied heavily, but not solely, on information provided by Christopher Steele, a former blank officer An FBI confidential human source steals information and the FBI responses this information described in below. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein appointed Robert Mueller special counsel to investigate Russian interference. Two memorandum. Time. FBI's counterintelligence division opened. The FBI's criminal investigation existing criminal. 53. A footnote 5,345. Jesus Christ. The committee reviewed the FISA applications filed with the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court and a limited set of underlying materials related to those applications described by the Department of Justice Office of Inspector General. These applications relied on erroneous information and included a number of omissions and inaccuracies. See the DOJ OIG FISA report. This is the one that I think Rob gets the most mad about, right? Jesus. Okay. The Steele dossier, its origins and handling. This is a bunch of stuff. Oh man. This is a lot of stuff. How many pages is this? Maybe I'll just read this tomorrow. Page 30, or hit 35? See if you can argue any of these points. ChatGPT. Jesus Christ. The FBI had no business opening Crossfire Hurricane. He'll cite Durham's conclusion that the investigation was launched with inadequate predication and heavy confirmation bias. Well, this isn't related to our debate tomorrow, no? All of this stuff postdates any ICA reporting. They abused FISA to spend Trump's aid, expecting to hammer the DOJ IG finding of 70 significant errors and omissions. Steele dossier paid for by Clinton was unverified and still used. He'll argue the dossier was opposition research upon the FBI's work. Okay, top of my officials were in the room. He pointed to the January 5th, 2017 Oval Office meeting. Evidence of high-level orchestration around Flynn in Russia. They unmasked Flynn all over town. He'll use a declassified list of senior Obama officials who requested unmask his identity from him as a target of political intel. There's a Clinton plan to tie Trump to Russia, and they knew he'll weave biased investigators. He'll cite Strzok and page texts, leaks and media pressure campaigns. Exculpatory facts were withheld. The ICA was politicized. When Obama pushed to include shaky materials like Steele. But this is not true, right? Most of them pushed back against it. That's why it was only included in the annex. Clinton-linked operatives funneled debunked stories to the FBI. Yeah, okay. If this is, as long as this is restricted to the topic that we're supposed to be debating and not just the whole page stuff, then that shouldn't matter, right? Oof. I could read this whole section to give us a lot of Steele dossier information, though. Because I don't think she...
Joining me now is the woman herself, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Director, thanks very much for being here this morning.
Good morning, Maria. Thank you.
What was the most damning thing that you learned after looking through all of these declassified documents?
Maria, the implications of this are frankly nothing short of historic. Over 100 documents that we released on Friday really detail and provide evidence of how this treasonous conspiracy was directed by President Obama just weeks before he was due to leave office, after President Trump had already gotten elected. This is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an issue that is so serious it should concern every single American because it has to do with the integrity of our democratic republic. What we saw occur here, as the documents we released detailed, was that we had a sitting president of the United States and his cabinet and leadership team, quite frankly, who were not happy with the fact that President Trump had won the election, that the American people had chosen Donald J. Trump to be the next president commander-in-chief of the United States. And so they decided that they would do everything possible to try to undermine his ability to do what voters tasked President Trump to do. So creating this piece of manufactured intelligence that claims that Russia had helped Donald Trump get elected contradicted every other assessment that had been made previously in the months leading up to the election that said...
Like it was just a lie, right?
Exactly the opposite, that Russia had neither the intent nor the capability to try to quote-unquote hack the United States.
Yeah, this is all just... These are all word games. I think these are all word games.
Election for the presidency of the United States. So the effect of what President Obama and his senior national security team did was subvert the will of the American people, undermining our democratic republic, and enacting what would be essentially a years-long coup against President Trump, who was duly elected by the American people.
Yeah. I want to go back to something Devin Nunes said, which is exactly what you're saying right now. And he said, after all of our investigation, we found that there was no intelligence. There was no intelligence actually indicating that Trump colluded with Russia. And what happened? Because there was a presidential daily briefing that was presented to President Obama every day, and every day it said the same thing. We have no evidence of collusion. We have no evidence that Russia did this with Donald Trump. So what happened? How did they actually get the public to believe, and have the public believe, that actually Trump did collude?
Well, this is the thing, Maria, when you look at the assessments that were made, not just by one element of the intelligence community, but in my role as the Director of National Intelligence, I oversee 18 different intelligence community elements. And in the months leading up to the November 2016 election, the intelligence community agreed that there was no intelligence that reflected that Russia was trying to hack the election in favor of either candidate. The evidence showed, the intelligence showed that, again, Russia did not have either the intent nor the capability to be able to impact the outcome of the United States election. So it was very striking when we look back again at the documents that I declassified and released that shows there was a shift in early December, the first week of December. Again, another document was produced by the intelligence community, a President's Daily Brief, that was consistent with every other assessment that was done previously leading up to the election. Russia did not, this is after the election now, did not attempt to affect the outcome of the American election. That was never published. Hours before it would have gone into President Obama's President's Daily Brief, it was pulled by a senior level intelligence official saying that they had to pull it because they had received new guidance. The very next day, this meeting was called, a National Security Council meeting, bring together all the senior leaders of President Obama's cabinet, and the topic that was put forward was a sensitive matter. The task that came out of that meeting was coming from President Obama directing the intelligence community.
Yeah, these are all just word games and lies. I don't know. I guess we'll see. I feel like tomorrow's going to be agony. So Russia did have the means and capability? No. Well, the goal was never to hack the election like machines. But I don't think that was ever the claim. And that was consistent throughout the entire time. But they did engage in cyber intrusion stuff to sway the election, which was the point of the like the Guccifer hacks, right? Among other smaller things they did. Okay. Maybe I'll read this tomorrow. Fuck me.
New talking points on issues like Putin, Ukraine, after the.
I don't know if it's worth watching this video. Okay. All right. I love you guys. I'll be back tomorrow. Be careful. Stay safe. Could you do a quick 950? Fuck.